Time to finish up our discussion on defensive masteries. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I am excited to finish what we were talking about with the defensive mastery tree. So we kind of went through, finished tier 4 and we still have tier 5 and tier 6. Now in my opinion, tier 5 and 6 are kind of really what you're looking for out of the defensive tree. So we'll kind of go over a couple of them, their usefulness, and here we go. Let's get started. So first of all, in tier 5 we have Selfless Defender. So decreases the damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round by 20%. This champion will receive that damage instead. So Selfless Defender I feel like is a useful one if you have tanky champion in a PvP setting. By the way, there was a comment that I read the other day that said, well, what would you do in faction wars and things like that? If I'm talking about PvP, I'm also talking about wave clear. It's the same concepts applied, right? Because you're doing damage to champions and not to bosses. Bosses have their own classification and their own rules when it comes to damage, but generally speaking, when you're doing wave clear, you're going to apply kind of the same tactics that you're applying when you're doing PvP, right? You're going to want to increase attack for attack-based nukers. You want to decrease defense, weaken. You want that stuff too against bosses, don't get me wrong, but you also are going to want enemy max HP damage. In some cases, you're gonna maybe want poisons, burns, and mechanics that go into it. So this, because it is the first enemy hit in each round, it could be something to help protect a glass cannon, if you will, right? Something that might be very weak. 20% of the defense will go towards maybe a tank that's in stone skin or something along those lines, right? So it's just something to consider. Listen up, I just got a new promo link that you can use to follow along with me on my latest free-to-play adventure and get a free Elenaril as well as 3 more powerful epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril right after signing up, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you progress through Raid. Click on my link right now and let's crush this together. It's not one that I use very often, mainly because it's only one hit. Damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round, right? So yeah, I don't know if it says in each round. I don't know if that's once per ally or not. It's not really specific. But either way, I don't know that Selfless Defender is something that I would want in a boss. I wouldn't want Selfless Defender in Demon Lord or Hydra because it's only going to happen one time and then never again. So let's move on to Cycle of Revenge. Has a 50% chance of increasing the turn meter by 15% when an ally is attacked with a critical hit. Will only increase the turn meter once if an ally receives multiple critical hits from a single skill. So for Cycle of Revenge, I don't pick this one that often. This is kind of in the same realm as the other ones, Cycle of Violence and Cycle of Magic, right? Now this one is technically, this one's tier 5, where the other two I mentioned are tier 4, but it's about, gaining cooldown reduction or turn meter or something. So in this particular case, we're gaining turn meter, right? Now they're not exactly the same. They're not apples to apples, but you kind of get what I'm saying. I hope. I could see a lot of value in this if you have somebody that wants to get a lot of turn meter. I actually do see a lot of value in this one, right? Because you have it's a 50-50. When an ally is attacked with a critical hit, there's a chance that this champion gets 15% turn meter. So if you have a support or something along those lines, that could be very, very beneficial. So I don't pick it very often, to be honest, but I think it's because most of the time I'm going to go with this one. We got Retribution. Has a 50% chance to counterattack when this champion loses 25% of their max HP or more from a single enemy skill. Against bosses, this has a pretty high chance of going off, especially when you consider something like Demon Lord, and counterattacks are a big deal. There's a reason that Plarium stopped making counterattack champions, with the exception Alaz, I think. Yeah, they stopped making full team counterattack champions. Counterattack is very powerful in this game. Having the ability to counterattack is pretty good. And you especially want to consider this when you're dealing with somebody that has a strong A1, whether it's just a really hard hitting A1 or perhaps just a one that applies a debuff or something along those lines, because there's a good chance that you're going to get some more of those A1s to go off, which can be very valuable to your champions. And then we have Deterrence. has a 20% chance to counterattack an enemy when they apply a hard CC on an ally. Very, very good. 20% chance is low-ish, but you've got 4 allies, so you got to think like there's a good chance that across their 3 allies that you're going to get a chance to counterattack. So it does have a 1-turn cooldown, but I like this one. I tend to go Deterrence quite often. Again, when I'm considering the power of the A1, like what does their A1 do? Does it bring, does it have some special benefit to the champion itself? I would want to get a bunch of procs off of this. And hard CC exists in a lot of areas in this game. Outside of Arena, got it in Faction Wars, you've got it in Doom Tower Waves, you've got it in a lot of bosses even, where you can get these counterattacks off, and it can be very beneficial, especially with like a hard hitting or an AoE A1. So yeah, I tend to go Deterrence often. I usually have Retribution and Deterrence when I finish in a defense tree. Now when we get to the support tree, we'll kind of talk about why there may be other ones that I go, or maybe why I might go other ones in offensive tree as well. But yeah, generally these are the 2 that I go. I do see a value behind Cycle of Revenge, but I feel like it's going to be kind of niche on a support that maybe a cleanser or something, somebody that you want to have take a lot of turns, maybe somebody that pumps turn meter a lot. I could see value there, but most of the time I'm thinking you're going to want that Retribution and that Deterrence. So those are the ones I usually pick out of this tier. Let's move on to tier 6. We have Iron Skin plus 200 defense. I really don't think I'm picking that often, just to be honest with you guys. 200 defense is good, but when you're talking about tier 6 masteries, these masteries are the ones that make or break their tier. Like, I don't go offense tree for single out, right? I go offense tree for Helm Smasher, or for Giant Slayer, or for War Master. That's why I'm picking offense tree, right? And if I go support tree, I'm going support tree for Eagle Eye. Well, we'll talk about those later. That's an important kind of understanding, right? Am I really going to pick a defensive tree just to get 200 defense? So that's not what I'm looking to get out of that. In today's world, 200 defense is a pretty small chunk of defense when you really consider things, like just, yeah, I don't care about 200 defense, just straight up. So Bulwark, this is an interesting one. Decreases the damage all allies receive by 5%. This champion will receive that damage instead. So Bulwark is doing kind of what Selfless Defender does, but on a smaller value, but for the entire fight. This is actually a very, very good one, especially in some of the older clan boss teams where you're using maybe an ally protector, or you're bringing like a tanky champion to kind of soak some damage, shields, that kind of thing. Bulwark can be very, very valuable to get you some extra turns on Demon Lord Clan Boss. And then further still, in other areas of the game, there may be some really good value in picking something like Bulwark to make sure that you're reducing the damage in a really hard hitting area of the game. This can be a very effective one. I think this one gets slept on a lot. I don't feel like a lot of people talk about Bulwark that much, but I do think that that's a pretty reasonable one. But to be completely honest, I very rarely go all the way down to the tier 6 when it comes to the defense tree. One of the ones that I do go for, specifically targeting when I go for tier 6, is Fearsome Presence. Increases the chance of placing a hard CC effect from skills or artifacts by 5%. Now that or artifacts part is very, very important. The increasing the chance of a debuff from artifacts by 5% is huge because we have a stun set. And unfortunately, and this is one of my biggest frustrations with Raid right now, that is kind of one of the better ways to play this game right now. I almost refuse to do it. If we take a look at my stun gear, even equipped, I don't even have that much stun gear because I'm just not a fan. I almost refuse to do it on principle because it's just not entertaining. But you'll notice there's a lot of like rare champions in here. Like I've got Elhain in a stun set, Soulbound Bowyer in a stun set, Bellower in a stun set. I don't know how well you can see that right here behind me, but yeah, the reality is that a stun set is very important in this game, and getting that Fearsome Presence mastery to improve those chances can be a pretty big deal. Likewise, you can add an additional 5% to somebody that doesn't have a 100% chance of landing a stun. So maybe somebody that has 75% chance or 50% chance. Now you're upping that to 55. So a greater than half the time chance. So, there's an opportunity for Fearsome Presence in very specific champions and very specific situations. I think it's a viable option if you're looking for that extra percentage. I will say that probably most of the time outside of artifacts, I probably am just going to rely on what they do from their skill and call it a day. I'm not really going to look for that extra 5%, but there are cases where I can see an argument made for it. Then we have Unshakable, resistance plus 50. Now we've talked a lot about resistance in this tree already. You kind of know how I feel. Plus 50 resistance that's a bigger chunk than kind of what we've talked about from some of these other abilities, and there's probably some usefulness there. Again, though, am I going to make the decision to go defense tree all the way to tier 6 for Unshakable? Like, am I that desperate for that resistance? It's a valid question, right? And that's a question that you need to ask yourself when you're picking your masteries, right? Do you really want that extra 50 resistance, or are you okay going in another direction and maybe getting a little extra boss damage out of them in the offense tree, or maybe getting something from the support tree a little further down in some certain areas? So it's a valuable question. I think 50 resistance is reasonable, but when you think about some of the other tier 6 masteries that you'd be giving up 50 resistance, I don't know, man. That's a tough sell for me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy about that, but that's a hard sell for me, to be completely honest with you, over some of the other options that we have in the other rows. So overall, that's kind of how I feel about this tree. It's not my like favorite tree, but I do enjoy Retribution and Deterrence quite a bit, and I will go this tree almost exclusively to try and get those a lot of times. You can see here I've got Empress going down this tree. Yeah, even Commodus going down this tree. And why Commodus going down this tree, right? Well, because the counterattacks in his alternate form, he can place bombs with the A1, and his bombs hit really, really hard because they're based on HP, and he has a lot of HP. Yeah, I tend to want those counterattacks, right? So you can see I've got them right there. Again, another nuker, Mezimel. We're going with Retribution to try and get counterattacks from her A1 potentially, right? So, it's all about what you're trying to do. What do I have on her? Do I have Cycle of Revenge? Yeah, so this one kind of makes sense, right? As a cleanser, when an ally gets hit, I want her to have an opportunity to put a big shield up or cleanse. So these, by the way, her talents that I have on Mithrala, I don't know that I've touched these in like 3 years. So don't judge me too critically on those. But yeah, you can kind of get an idea of kind of what I value when I am building my champions, based on these, right? And you can really get a feel for that. And you might say, well, this is a defensive nuker, right? But a defensive nuker, I'll move myself over here so you can kind of see a little bit better. I go Helm Smasher on her. But yeah, for a defensive nuker, like, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, is this 200 defense? Like, that's not better than Helm Smasher when you're talking about a defensive nuker. I wonder if my UDK, if I run him on that. Yeah, see, even UDK, I run resistance, because I don't want that stone skin coming off, because this is a build that's really not viable anymore. It's a heavy stone skin build with a very slow UDK. You can't see the stats, I'll move myself. So very, very slow UDK. This isn't really a viable build anymore because there's so many ways to get rid of stone skin now and so many things that do damage. So this is proven to be a little obsolete at this point. I don't really use my UDK as much anymore, and only 338 resistance. He's pretty low by the standards today. So, but a big chunk of that does come from that mastery, right? And I would prefer that resistance because he has a chance to place sleep, but I think that books to 100% chance. So, and I don't even think I run accuracy on him anyways. So anyways, just kind of wanted to give you a preview there of kind of what I'm looking at when I'm, picking my masteries. Here, this is a champion where Selfless Defender makes a lot of sense to reduce that a big AoE hit. UDK has a ton of defense, a ton of HP, just a solid tank, and can soak up a big chunk of that damage. It makes sense there. Counterattacking kind of makes sense. It's just maybe a little bit better than some of these other options, and because I really wanted to get to that resistance of these options, because the extra HP and things that are coming from the support tree that we'll talk about in tomorrow's video maybe don't mean as much for UDK. So that is one of the instances there. So, okay, well, I feel like I've kind of touched enough on the defensive mastery tree today for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Feel free to disagree with me. I know that these are my opinions. I always try to put that caveat in the beginning of the video and say, these are my opinions. These are not like cold hard facts. And I'm very open to receiving different opinions and different options that maybe I've never considered, because my point of this video is to give you guys different opinions and options when considering the masteries that you're picking for your champions. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, as that is the best way to support this channel. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.